and colleagues, welcome back to the Bold by Choice podcast. Now, we are super pumped this season because we have our colleagues from the National Charter Schools Institute with us, and we are unpacking some tensions and even misconceptions that boards who run charter schools or govern charter schools, they don't run them, often face. And one of those common misconceptions about governance is that it begins and ends inside that monthly boardroom meeting. We sometimes think about governance as a series of meetings, maybe even budgets, dashboards, policies, and compliance. And while all of those things do matter very deeply and they are part of the work, governance does extend beyond that boardroom table. And great schools, we know, do not thrive on academic performance alone, although that is one of our metrics. They also thrive when there's trust among the adults, on relationships, on credibility, on public belief in what's happening inside that school building. And so we're excited that we have Alyson Murphy here with us today, our Director of Partner Services, joining us for this conversation. Welcome to the show, Alyson.
Thank you for having me back. Excited to be here.
Oh, I'm super pumped, especially because as we started preparing for this episode, we had a few stories that came out. And so I actually want to start, Alyson, by asking you through your work with our partners and in our services and trainings, you've seen how relationships and community trust can really shape a school's success. Even from the authorizer lens. So my first question is, can you share an example of a board that experienced this kind of a realization?
Yeah, I'm going to take it back to my authorizing days where we had a board that thought they were doing their job really well. So meetings were organized, financials were clean, policies were updated, they had great subcommittee structure, and academic reports were regularly reviewed. So from the inside, their governance looked really, really solid. But outside of those school walls, there was something different happening. The public trust was eroding. So families in the community didn't really fully understand the school's mission anymore. Local leaders rarely heard from the board. Political conversations about charter schools were happening without anyone from the school at the table. There was enrollment competition increasing in the community, and misinformation spread online through a social media post, which of course led to rumors circulating out in the community about the school. This board was really shocked when they realized that they had governed the organization, but they neglected the ecosystem that allowed their organization to exist.
Mm-hmm.
This tension really deepened when there was a facility issue that emerged. So suddenly this school really, really needed public support, community allies, parent advocates, and even some trusted civic relationships. But the board had really spent years focusing inward. The board members did not go to community events anymore. Very few of them could actually articulate their school story publicly. Advocacy was viewed as somebody else's job, namely the school leader. And that school leader ended up carrying almost all of the external relationships on their own. So over time, the board really unknowingly became passive stewards of the charter rather than active champions of their mission. And then came the pivotal moment, the board meeting of all board meetings. So there was a really tense board meeting where the main topic on this agenda was regarding a potential school expansion. Several community members showed up to this board meeting and spoke during public comment, and they spoke against the school.
Ooh.
So some criticisms were definitely inaccurate, but there were others that were genuine misunderstandings and unmet community concerns that were expressed. The board did a good job. They sat there quietly. They took it in, didn't react.
Mm-hmm.
And a member later admitted that, he realized they had spent years talking about student outcomes in board meetings, but failed to build belief in the community where those students were coming from. Mm-hmm. And that moment in realization really changed the board. So over the next year, board governance really began to evolve. The board reframed stewardship to not just protecting that organization internally, but cultivating the conditions externally for that school to thrive. So board members began showing up differently. They started attending community meetings. rebuilding relationships with local leaders, engaging families more intentionally. They learned their elevator pitch for their school and could tell the story publicly. They started advocating for their students and listening to community concerns. And at that moment, that's when they really understood that the charter contract isn't just a document with signatures, it's really, truly a public promise.
Mhm.
The board chair also restructured the meetings. So instead of opening with a compliance update, they started opening with student stories. And then with recruitment, they shifted it from looking for board members with technical, legal finance expertise to really asking, okay, who do we trust in the community? Who understands this city past and present? Who can help us build bridges and who can really help advocate for this school? I think over that year, the board really realized that, great schools do not survive on academic performance alone. They survive on trust, on relationships, credibility, and on public belief. So I think this board really thought that governance ended. Like you said, when the meeting adjourned, they could take off their board member hat, put it at the door. Now I think they understood after that year that governance lives in conversations. It's in those in between moments. It's in partnerships. It's in advocacy and visibility and in the courage to publicly stand for students and communities.
Mhm.
Stewardship is not about only overseeing the school. It's about helping to create an entire community where the school has the opportunity to flourish.
Yeah. I think sometimes we refer to that as creating the conditions, right, Jim? We think about the board's role in ensuring the school leader and the school and that team is really equipped to do the things that are written in the charter. And there's just so much in this story I can't wait to tease out.
Allison, that's a powerful story because it's counterintuitive, right?
Mhm.
Here's a board that's running efficient meetings, right? Their meeting management's really good. And all of a sudden they wake up and are like, "Hey, we need to do something pretty important for the school," and nobody's with us.
Mhm.
And it's like, "Oh my gosh, we did this to ourselves because we became we settled, right? We thought we were doing the right thing, but we settled for meeting management versus mission stewardship."
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
so one of the resources we have at the Institute is what we call the four key roles of governing boards. But what it sounds like they got back to are the four things: guardians of mission, being strategists for success, the stewards of possibility, and ultimately ambassadors for excellence.
Mhm.
And those four things are really key roles for boards to do because it all leads to credibility. And when you need people to be with you, they need to follow a board, an organization that has credibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And this board was a great board. They were not negligent. They just so narrowly focused on what they thought governance was that they forgot about the rest of it.
Mhm.
And that's, it's part of the reason we use the term stewards, right? Because as a board, you don't own it. You care for it. And your job is to take good care of it, but also to prepare it for the future.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what comes out of this story in such a rich way is that you can't take your eye off the prize
Mhm.
because you have to be building for possibilities. And that requires, the vision. It requires those relationships of mutual trust and respect. And how do you build those? By getting out into the community, showing up, being part of the conversations, letting people know your why, your heart, so that when you have a request for them, they're with you, right? They'll listen to you. They can understand and buy into it.
Yeah, I think this is really where a board was governing the organization instead of stewarding the mission. And so boards have to understand that stewarding a mission is protecting long term trust, it's advocacy, relationships, anything you can do to help sustain belief in the work that you're doing. The stewardship is going to protect the conditions that allow the mission of the school and the school itself to survive long term.
Yeah. One of the things that came out, and I am going to be honest, in my naivety prior to 2 years ago, my mindset was that boards need to raise money. Like, that's just what I thought. Now, why context in my community and family members who sit on boards of other types of nonprofits, not necessarily schools, that's what I saw them do. So growing up, that's what I thought it meant to be a board member. Now I am a little bit smart,
Shante,
not
we'll put
much,
you on our board. Raise money.
right? But like there may be those myths out there for future board members. So let's unpack this role of advocacy on the board. How would you, like, say you're training a group of boards or you're running a session, how would you help boards understand their role with advocacy? And that's actually to both of you.
Yeah, I think sometimes, you know, strong advocacy, I think, can mean that you are out there speaking for your school, but you're still being open to community feedback. So you want to advocate strongly for your school and your students, but you have to know you can't see and hear everything. You cannot know everything about what is going on around you. So being open to community feedback, concerns, and blind spots, and being able to pivot appropriately, but also knowing where to stand firm when you should. Um, it's humility. Humility, I think, is a part of advocacy and, understanding that you don't always have it right and that you're open to feedback, while still pushing heavily for what you know is right and correct about your school and
Hmm.
your students.
Hmm.
I think, Vashanta, the word advocacy sometimes gets thought of as lobbying and public relations. And that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about how do you advocate for your school? How do you advocate for the students and families you serve? How do you advocate for fair funding for charter schools and your students?
Hmm.
How do you advocate for equitable facilities, right? How you be an ambassador for what we call excellence, right? And so part of what our message to board members is you're part of something bigger than yourself, right? Bigger than your school. You're part of a state and a national movement. But that idea that you can be a great advocate, just like a parent's a great advocate for their kid, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean you fight all their battles, but you know your kid, you care about your kid, you help your kid get opportunities to succeed. And so in this world, one of the keys is how, as a board, you build relationships before they're needed, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about this exact story Alyson told us, being out in the community, developing the relationship, showing up, being part of it is how you build those relationships. So then when you do have an expansion or a need, the community is there for you because they know you and you're part of it.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the things about charters is, every charter school at one point was a new idea and a new, yeah, a new member of a community. How do you meet your neighbors? How do you become a good neighbor? How do you serve your neighborhood? And I think that's a good lens for us to remember as board members because people look at board members in a way because they're volunteering their time and their talents.
Hmm.
They're seen as credible because they're, quote, not getting paid. And so board members that care, show up, speak well, believe in the school, are ambassadors for it. They're heard differently and in a very powerful way.
Hmm. Hmm. I think some of that is the ability to build bridges across different lines. And one of the things we think about on our board are the strengths we have as individuals and how we allow those individual strengths and connections and relationships to show up on the behalf of the school. And so one of the things I think about is like breaking it down so it doesn't seem so overwhelming to board members. Not every person has to do everything, but it is a good idea to think about who is that kind of natural spokesperson? Who is that person that kind of naturally, like it is their way to be out in the community and to share what's going on with the school and finding ways to have some mutually beneficial connections. I mean, I think having those conversations with your fellow board members and diversifying the way that you all operate is something that you can consider in bridge building as well.
Absolutely. And I think not everyone is great with being outspoken, having soapbox moments, but if that's not your vibe as a board member, show up. Just go to, a school basketball game or a concert. I was going to throw a basketball in there one time at least. Come on.
It's only
You know,
fitting.
Go to a school concert. Just being there and being visible holds such power when families see you and see that you're showing up and that you believe in your school and that you support everything going on, during the day and then also the extracurriculars as well. You don't always have to have these big grandstanding moments. Power is also just in being visible and being seen.
Mhm.
Winners show up.
They do.
Um, I just want to use that to say this as well. Boards and board meetings have a platform to them. And you can use that platform to elevate student and family voice, the voice of your team that's doing the work in the school every day. I think wise boards, and part of what I heard in this story is they went back to some basics, right? Starting their meetings with a mission moment,
Yeah.
using that platform to elevate student, family, educator voice. That's very simple and easy to do, is very impactful. And the great thing is it doesn't cost money, right? You're a board, you could say, hey, let's do this. And you could activate it at your next monthly meeting and be on your way. And it will
Mhm.
build and grow and the dividends that it pays. Because what are you doing? You're basically highlighting your people, your team, your impact.
Mhm. And you're putting your money where your mouth is. We talk about these habits boards create because they are the people paving the way. And so you create those kinds of cultural moments and it signals to everyone what's important. And we know that what's important, what's inspected gets done. And so I love how all of those pieces start to come together to shift the culture.
All right. And I want to pick up on that last thing you said, Vashanta, because this is key for all the board members listening, right? Board members get told a lot, hey, inspect, demand, hold accountable. And there's that part. But the highly effective habits of leaders, one of them is encourage the heart.
Yeah.
And that's different than demanding and holding accountable.
Mhm.
And this opportunity to have mission moments and elevate and show you believe in your people, right? Your students, your team, the adults that serve them. That empowers the heart. It encourages the heart. And great schools have a heart. We've called it the secret ingredients love, but that's a way to show it.
That's absolutely right. Well, Jim, I think the audience is about ready for our bold by choice card pull for the week. Drum roll, please. This is becoming like one of our favorite moments in the podcast episode.
I
And there's
love
that beautiful deck, ladies and gentlemen, soon to be available in our store. So you'll be able to
All
have.
right. And we keep hearing from people that are using these around the country. So we love those stories. Keep sending them in. But here's the card. Oh, I think Alyson planted this. Dr. Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, what leadership decisions require courage to do what is right rather than what is easy?
I love that one so much. Maybe I did plan it that way. No, I didn't, dear audience, I promise. I think leadership courage it's less dramatic sometimes than people think. Sometimes it's just simply the willingness to stay engaged when things become uncomfortable. It's engaging in difficult conversations instead of avoiding them, staying mission centered under pressure, being able to recognize where maybe you took a misstep and change directions like this board did, changing around how they show up for the community, confronting unhealthy culture. It's not always, again, huge things. It's little moments, I think, where leadership courage
Mhm.
can really come through. So,
I love that.
Alison, you're so wise and insightful.
oh, why,
Yes.
thanks. It's because I'm with two wise and insightful, awesome people here.
There is a message in that though, Vashanta. Great boards are proactive and they're forward looking.
Yes.
And managing the now is not forward looking. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient.
Mhm.
And that's really the gem of this story is that even when everything's going well, you need to stay forward looking and preparing for the future.
Absolutely. Which brings us to this week's boardroom moment. So, in your next meeting, we encourage you to ask yourselves as a board, how are we actively building trust, visibility, and relationships in our community, but beyond the board meeting? So, think about that, reflect on how you all are individually and collectively showing up, who's hearing your story and the story of your students in your school, who is experiencing you, but from more of a distance and could be brought in. Because we know that sometimes these relationships really can be the pinnacle for us better serving students and families. We say it all the time, stewardship is a lot of things. And one of those means to protect and to watch out for the relationships that will be very necessary for the life of the charter school cycle at the school. Well, Jim,
Great
any closing
boards.
reflections?
Yep. Great boards do more than oversee. They create the conditions where excellence can thrive.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Bold by Choice podcast. And Alyson, thank you for coming back and being with us.
Gosh, thank you for inviting me back. I hope you bring me back again. This is fun.
Well, we're having a good time. So as long as we have fun, we keep going, right? Well, listeners, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a beat as we continue sharing real stories and offering some of the things that we are seeing in our landscape today. Well, until next time, stay bold.